get through things. Don't try to get over them. A lot of the time, we say things to ourselves like, "Oh, get over it," or like you tell somebody like, "Ah, damn, like it's not worth it, man. Just get over it." Almost as if you're kind of glancing over what's actually bothering you, as opposed to just trying to get over it and get it out of the way. Confront whatever it is that's bothering you, no matter how big or small it is. You know, we kind of live in a day and age where a lot of things get dismissed. They go under the radar, and it's covered with the guise of like, "Oh, it's not that deep," or like, "Yo, it's not that deep." It's always that deep. It is always that deep. Don't let anybody convince you that it's not. It's always that deep. There's going to be times and situations to where you're going to react a certain way just based off of the principle, off of how you feel. And people will say things like, "Oh, it's not that deep," not seeing the deeper principle at play. You need to separate yourself from those people. You need to isolate yourself from those people as fast as possible, because if they can't see the deeper problem at play, then that's the problem itself. A lot of the time we tend to try to dance around and not address the elephant in the room and cover it with that guise of it's not that deep. You know, and this can transfer over into getting over things as well. We'll kind of dull our emotions off and write them off as it's not that deep, or, you know, it is what it is, as opposed to really analyzing ourselves and figuring out what went wrong or what made us feel the way we did. There's a lack of reflection of self. And in order to really understand what triggers you and why it triggered you, you have to go through it. You have to feel it. You have to analyze it. You have to look at it from every angle possible. You can't just write it off as, you know, it is what it is, or like, fuck it, we ball. Like, I know it's easy to, because sometimes that's just really what you have to do, but you need to learn how to process your emotions properly. You need to learn how to analyze yourself. I feel like a great way to start to really analyze the things that you go through and to really start beginning to process your own emotions and just understand yourself better is to start journaling. When you first start journaling, you're not gonna know what to really do or what to really write. You might not feel like writing anything at all, and especially if you take the initiative to do it daily or consistently. You'll notice that a lot of times you'll take out that journal and you don't want to write anything down. Those are the times that matter the most. That's when you really should be writing things down. When you feel like you don't need to write something. Even if you're having a wonderful day, start writing about how the day is wonderful. I guarantee you'll find something. Not saying that every time you journal you should be writing about something bad or you should always think negatively. More so, make sure that you're fleshing out these concepts and ideas. The moment you begin to really write down your thoughts, they become a lot more clear. So that thing that bothered you, that you didn't really understand why it bothered you, once you start writing and once you really start getting the gears turning in the sense of introspection, because that's what it is, you'll begin to realize, oh wow, this is a lot deeper than I thought. It will begin to actually unravel in front of you. Something that was a 10-minute argument in the kitchen about dishes actually stemmed from your childhood, and the fact that you didn't like how, you know, people left dishes in the sink and made you wash them or whatever the case may be. So now you have roommates and now you're micromanaging the kitchen because of that trauma from that past. But you don't see it as that because you didn't take the time to analyze. So when you have these moments to where you lose yourself, or you say like you had a lapse of judgment, you weren't thinking, you know, you don't know what came over you, those should be the times where you consult yourself, consult yourself, figure out what's going on with yourself. You shouldn't interrogate yourself in the negative sense to where you're trying to scare yourself away, but interrogate yourself. Ask yourself those difficult questions in privacy. The benefit of a journal, the benefit of introspection, the benefit of being by yourself and being mindful is there's no shame in whatever it is. If you were lazy that day, admit it to yourself, you were lazy. Stop taking the denotation, the connotation of what a word is, and thinking that makes you. Just because you were lazy for a day, that doesn't make you a lazy person. Just because you made a mistake doesn't make you a clumsy person. You understand? It's okay to acknowledge if you forgot something. It's okay to acknowledge if you made a mistake here or there. But the way that you can begin to even get to acknowledging these things is if you begin to introspect, is if you begin to journal. It's as if you begin to get through things as opposed to trying to get over them. As opposed to distracting yourself from what it is that you're trying to deal with and what it is that's hurting you, embrace it. make it your friend. Not to the degree of you fall in love with the idea of being in pain, but to the degree to where you understand that this is part of your growth. This is part of your lesson. Whatever it is that you needed to learn here, find it. Because in every person that you meet, there's a lesson that you're going to find through them if you choose to seek it out. If you don't choose to seek it out, the lesson is not going to present itself to you. But if you choose to seek it out and you take the necessary steps, the lesson will present itself to you like anything else. If you want a car, but you don't have any of the necessary prerequisites to get the car, then the dealership is they're not going to make a deal with you. If you go to the bank and you want to apply for a credit card, but you don't have the necessary prerequisites, you don't have a social, you don't have any proof of identity, you don't have anything, then you can't qualify for the lesson. You can't qualify for the card. It's the same thing with your lessons in life. If you don't step up to the plate and say, what did I do wrong here? Or what can I learn from this? Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong, but even when you didn't do anything wrong, there was still something you did to a certain degree to enable the behavior on the opposite side. There's always something you could take away from it. Damn, this person was really toxic in this relationship with me, but I stayed in it. I have to take accountability for that. I stayed in this for longer than I should have. You have to take accountability for that. It's not one of those things to where you could just shift the blame completely on the other person and say, yeah, I'll get over it, cool. Like, it's so much easier to push everything onto somebody else or to push it onto the idea of something external than it is to do the work here. But once you do the work here, the outside world will begin to reflect that. So once you start getting through your problems as opposed to getting over your problems, you'll notice that the same problems don't really arise the same way they used to. Because since you got through the problem, you understand it. You understand it a lot better. So the next time you're met with it, you have a completely different style towards it. It's like, whoa. There was a time where this would happen and I would start yelling, I would start blacking. Ever since I started introspecting, ever since I started journaling, ever since I started really paying attention to myself and how I react to things, I don't get that way anymore. And that person can't pull that out of me. It's very necessary, I would say. So going forward, as opposed to trying to get over things, get through them. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's easy to do. I'm not saying that, you're going to wake up and you're going to have a hold on it right away. It's a very daunting task, but you should still try. I think we're all capable of trying to do that, trying to just get through the things that bother us, making time to really understand ourselves and the people that we deal with, as opposed to just getting over it. Getting over it leads to a lot of the same problems occurring and a lot of the same cycles in your life repeating because you don't thoroughly understand why you were in that situation to begin with. So you'll end up there again. It's like getting lost in a car. If you put the GPS on, you'll get to the right destination. But if you just get in the car and drive aimlessly, you'll probably end up lost circling back around the same tree multiple times. Hey, I saw that tree 3 times, are we lost? You're lost because there's no direction. The moment that you start trying to get through things and you start trying to really dissect what's going on internally, the map becomes a lot more clear. The roadmap becomes so much more clear because the same little pitfalls that you ran into before aren't there anymore.